Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we'll be doing the Sacramento Kings offseason preview. Obviously, if you guys haven't been here before, we're going to go ahead and talk about everything that they need to work on, what's happened lately. And it's not a prediction because we'll do the predictions probably in May, but what we need to think about. So let's get right to it. They lost in the play-in to Dallas. Monte McNair was mutually parted ways. I think his contract's just expired. It was a nice way of firing him. And Scott Perry comes in. The guy who kind of built, some people are going to say he built the roster that is currently the Knicks, but that's really Leon Rose. And he helped get Jalen Brunson there. But basically, once Jalen got there in 2023, Scott left midseason and then got replaced by Gerson Rosas. But Scott Perry is considered a steady, conservative front office mind. He's someone who, he's had some calculated, smart tweaks. The Kristaps Porzingis trade, in retrospect, was good. So he'll be able to figure this out. What are the questions we need to hear? Decide if the Kings can retool around Sabonis, LaVine, and DeRozan. They need to address the starting point guard vacancy post De'Aaron Fox. They need to determine a trade value for Sabonis, LaVine, and DeRozan. They have to decide, can they become a short-term contender or some playoff team? Or do they build for long-term sustainability? This was the 15th highest scoring team in points per game. They shot the 12th best. 3-point shot percentage was 10th, 13th in assists, 9th in rebounds, and their defensive rating was middle of the pack. What do we learn here? Sacramento was basically mediocre. They finished middle tier across almost every single stat, good enough to hang in games, but not built to win a playoff series. So let's look at this. You have Sabonis, who I think Alperen Şengün has surpassed him, but he is one of the three offensive hub bigs in the league, with Sabonis, Jokic, and Şengün being those guys. And he led the NBA in rebounding this year, and he signed through 2028. Keegan Murray becomes extension eligible this year. He's improved as an on-ball defender. He's a solid three-point shooter, but wasn't the report that they believed that he was going to be better than Lauri Markkanen? Do you guys believe that? Let me hear your thoughts. Zach LaVine is a poor fit with Sabonis, and he has a 15% trade kicker. So to me, you're not moving LaVine. It's not that he's a poor fit, okay? He's a poor defensive fit. That's it. They work fine together. It's the defense. By having LaVine, DeRozan, and Sabonis, it's as if they thought having so many negatives on defense would somehow come back around and make them a positive, as if math like that worked in real life. But I think that we went double negative and then negative again. That would have just put us back in negative. And DeRozan's on a cheap deal, hypothetically 2 years, $57 million, $10 million partially guaranteed. He was effective, and he could be a potential cap relief, get dumped for a trade in that sort, or be packaged for a bigger trade. And Malik Monk and Jonas Valanciunas and Keon Ellis are the rest of the roster. So let's talk about some people that they could bring in that they need a starting caliber point guard. They're not going to be able to get a star, as if they did, it's going to gut the depth that they don't really have. And their only trade chip, if you're not going to trade DeRozan or LaVine or somebody or Sabonis, is Keegan Murray. And in free agency, who can you go out and get? One of them, I think, is going to be interesting to see how they would do it, is I think acquiring a starting caliber point guard, making $16 to $20 million if you package Keegan Murray. And if it's an expensive contract, you probably would have to put them Carter in there. But what would this sound? I would not trade Keegan Murray for most of these players on this list. I would try to bring these guys in as sign-in trades. And that would be Tyus Jones on a 3-year, $21 million for him, give him $7 million a year. Signing trades have to be 3-year deals. He's just an effective, low usage guard who can play off of Sabonis and be a floor spacer. Same thing with D'Angelo Russell. He's not ideal defensively, but he's a cheap floor spacer. He's not going to be making that almost 19 that he made this year. So you could probably get him real cheap. Like, again, part of the mid-level exception. So 3 years, 7, 3 years, 6. And if they want to go defensive, like, he would cost maybe some draft capital, but he broke out for the Hornets and he becomes extension eligible, probably $16 million a year. You would have to sign him to, but Tre Mann. I think that's like the secret one. Tre Mann, I think, could be an underrated pivot. Give him a fast-paced guard that doesn't need primary reps, can play the 1 or the 2. He's more of a 2 right now, but maybe try to defend him. And I think that's what you would do. Probably if you did a deal like that, Tre Mann, you would also maybe try to get some depth pieces from them. So that being said, I think the better decision, because it would be cool if you could, bring in Tyus Jones and Tre Mann and still have Keegan Murray. Or if you were able to, I don't even know who you try to flip Keegan Murray for. The salary's just too small. Anybody worth a damn he's just not going to be able to get that done. So you trade versatile on the wing while clearing some salary cap, or even acquiring some future draft assets, probably second round picks. But I've thought about this. The Spurs are going in, or not going in, but they want to be a playoff team. So I've said the idea of like Keldon Johnson, Malachi Brannan, Blake Wesley, whatever, like young guys that they don't care for anymore. Just do that. Like, you get Keldon Johnson. He kind of fits this team, gives you some defense. The other 2 guys, reclamation projects. I think the Raptors, a return home one would be cool, as it would maybe have to be a 3-team trade due to Jakob Poeltl or RJ Barrett having to be the guy. And if I was the Kings, I would just be like, I really don't want that coming back here. Like, let's try to find a place to send that. But again, yeah, RJ making 27 or Jakob, because you would probably want to do like Jakob and Ochai, and they're cool with probably getting Ochai, but they're like, we don't want Poeltl coming here. And that's where you maybe try to see if like Atlanta would want to have a pairing, because Poeltl becomes an expiring next year. So you could maybe see if Atlanta wants to do a send off of that. Well, he technically has an option. He might pick that up because you might not make 19 the following year. So what other deals could they do besides those? Now, as we've had beside me, we've had like a little info sheet that I wanted to put next to us. But the Heat, Duncan Robinson, Jaime Jaquez gets you basically there, because Mr. DeMar DeRozan, and I think DeMar would work in Miami. Same thing with Toronto. Going back there, I think they would probably want to use him as a 6-man. And that's why they probably would want to send RJ Barrett as the guy, unless they want to keep RJ. But I think it would be RJ, and you'd either take RJ, and RJ's making already $3 million more. So that is one thing you're seeing right there. So my assumption, it is probably like a Jakob Poeltl, Ochai, and you re-sign Ochai this offseason, or in this fall is when he becomes eligible. I think the dark horse team, obviously we said the Miami Heat one. I like that you get some Duncan Robinson, Jaime Jaquez. There's no defense coming in that deal, but you're getting him something. I think the big deal that you could do is the Kings technically could get themselves Kevin Durant by packaging DeMar DeRozan, Malik Monk, and Jonas Valanciunas. And if that deal goes through, that's because the Suns were being given even worse deals. And I would be mind blown. Yeah, because DeMar and Malik get you to $43 million, and then Jonas Valanciunas gets you to the 54 to do that deal. Would I do that deal? Probably not, but like the Kings might be desperate, and like Vivek Ranadivev, being a former Warriors owner, might feel like the need to have to bring in Mr. Kevin Durant. So I will never put anything past Mr. what is it? Malakovi, the Prince of Chaos who failed upwards. Now, the last couple that I think that they could do if you're trying to like move DeMar, as we mentioned earlier, is is there a deal out there that you could find? That you're looking for someone who can be a point of attack defender or a shot creator, and maybe bring a second player who can be a connector and a floor spacer. So, like, Jalen Suggs would be cool if they were trying to move him. I don't know if that's like what you would like want to take a chance on, but like another guy is Emmanuel Quickley. If the Raptors say we don't want to be paying all these guys, you could try to do Keegan Murray with somebody. But basically, if you can trade for a young guy or start bringing players in, I think that'd be the biggest option for them, as they need to acquire a starting caliber point guard, and that's the only way you move forward, as the deals that we put here still don't solve the biggest thing, which is defense, which is why I bring up the Jalen Suggs thing, but that's unlikely due to Suggs' recent contract extension. And yeah, I just don't see there being an easy deal for the Kings to do. And that's where I bring up the Suns thing, where like you could explore that package of DeRozan, Monk, and Jonas Valanciunas. I wouldn't do it because I think Durant's like not gonna like change anything here. But would the fans care? I don't know. He would give you just the score. He fits. Doesn't solve the defense. I mean, you're giving up 3 players. DeRozan's more of a mid-range guys. You give a center. It's just the considerations you have to think of is Durant's contract status, 37. You're probably gonna have to extend him. The Suns aren't going to ask for extra assets. If they do that deal, it's because there's no other deal available. And yeah, so the one guy that I think who could be good and tradable, but I think the organization likes him, and it's Jaden Ivey, because they might decide like we won't be able to afford you, so we'll trade you. But I don't know if they have like the capital to get him then. So what's the last thing? Soft rebuild. Trade Sabonis, whose value is somewhat still high. Trade LaVine, DeRozan. Get rid of them all and rebuild around the youth movement. And personally, I think you keep everybody. You try to explore some sign and trades. And at worst, like the whole thing is the priority of this offseason is get a steady point guard. And Scott Perry and Doug Christie are aligned, so the Kings are simpatico in terms of their coach. The one player I see maybe being traded is DeMar DeRozan's contract creatively being used for cap gymnastics, as I said, a potential contender wanting to rent him or seeing him as a guy who can help them out. But yeah, that's it for me. Bye.